New flex, what's best, what's next? New text, who guessed? You said, I said, we won, we dread. What's best, what's next? New phone, new dress, new flex, what's best, what's next? New text, who guessed? You said, I said, we won, we dread. What's best, what's next? Leave me alone, go out west, give me your phone. Going down west, leave me alone, go out west, run slow. Going down west, leave me alone, go out west, give me your phone. Going down west, leave me alone, go out west, run slow. Going down west.
Hey, what is up, Bronze Brigade? We are live from the West Coast of the United States of America here on April 22nd. This is Best Coast Comics. I am Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and I'm joined by Brian, aka Bigby McFly, the comic book guy. How's it going, Brian?
Good. Glad to see you tonight.
Glad to see you too, man. It's been a little while since our last show. I'm ready to get into it. I'm glad to be back. This is our third installment of Best Coast Comics. And tonight we've got an action-packed lineup of topics to talk about, pretty literally.
Much more lighthearted than last time.
Yes, more lighthearted, more positivity. I think for the most part, celebration of things a lot of us nerds love. A couple, maybe especially one more serious topic that we'll get to, but still,
I wanted to. Do you mind if I do some housekeeping about Preston?
Yes. Oh, please do. Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and say it?
So if you guys remember, guys and gals out there in YouTube land, we did a little bit of an extra push for a fundraiser for Jen, aka Comics Will Break Your Heart, for her GoFundMe. And we had this piece of artwork that was donated by an artist. It was a print, a Kingpin print by Hardline Ray that he signed, and we auctioned that off. Yeah, we raffled it off, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And the winner of that, by the way, I want to stress that it was really awesome to see so many people donate. It was a little funny in a way because a lot of those people that donated did it anonymously.
Everybody was anonymous. They were just like, "Hey, we just want to support, but we don't want to take any credit for or anything. Just thanks for raising money for Jen. So it's awesome that you guys are doing that." So it was like, and nothing against people who did want to get in on the raffle. That was the whole point.
Absolutely. The whole point was definitely to raise awareness, and I know we're both on the same page with that, and to help kind of get her some extra funding in her fight. So you guys answered the call. That's the good news. It only looked on paper like a couple of you did, but a lot more actually did.
Like 20-something people, wasn't it?
It was a good chunk of help went her way, is what I'll say. In the spirit of what we just talked about, though, it's kind of funny because the person who ended up winning, which shout out to Preston, if you go watch the IG drawing of who won, it was Preston, a longtime viewer. I know he's asleep. He was in my stream over on Devil's Advocates on the EXP channel earlier, but I know he had to pass out early. I'm sure he's watching on the rewind. Preston made a really noble gesture that I really appreciate, and I think Jen really appreciated too. It's very obvious she really appreciated it. He wanted to pay that forward to Jen and have that print go to her, which is a really awesome move. I want to give a little round of applause to Preston there. That was a dope thing to do. So really appreciate that. So it just kind of goes to show like how awesome the community is when we want to be positive, when we want to inject that kind of, part of the reason this is Best Coast Comics is because we're a little more chill on the West Coast. We want to bring part of that vibe over to the comic scene on YouTube. So thanks.
Yeah. So that will be being hand delivered to her next week.
That's awesome. I appreciate you taking care of that part of it too, because I don't know.
Actually, credit goes to Travis from Comics Limited. He goes over to Portland on a regular basis, and he made arrangements to hand deliver it to her.
Right on. That's cool. That's cool. Thanks, Travis. Go check out Comics Limited over here on YouTube. He is a channel member here too, so I really appreciate all he's done. He helped out a lot with Heroes for Heroes, as did Bigby, of course, when we did that, and all kinds of great stuff. So I love seeing that. It really makes a big difference for people's lives. I think we can see that that's really true. So yeah. You said some housekeeping.
We're not the intro of the show, but
no, it's perfect. Was there more than that you wanted to tackle at the front?
No, I just wanted to share that I thought that was really a really nice gesture, and I wanted to make sure that we let people know what happened. We were like, man, this is so cool. How can we let everybody know? We can't really share all of the messages and stuff, but yeah, there was a lot of heart emojis going back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'll just say, like, Preston is one of the first people that started watching my channel regularly, and has always been a great supporter, and I really appreciate that. Of course, I mean that's amazing, but also has continually proved to be a class act. And I know he'll probably think this is too much attention on him, is my guess, but hey, good job. Way to set the example for other people, because I bet you other people will follow in steps. So thank you. Yeah. So, and I guess what we should really do now that we've talked about that very important topic, and we played our brand new snazzy new intro, which hopefully people enjoyed, we should say hi to everybody in chat.
Yes.
Richard in chat. Hey, Richard, another person who supported. Thank you for your support. All right, let's go. I love it. GTK Comic. That's how I know a stream actually is working on YouTube. I get a comment from GTK Comic with the emojis. So that's awesome. Immortal Biggie Shack. All right, man. My trivia rival. What's up, Biggie Shack? Hope you're able to join the show live as well. Hey, we got Bigby in the chat. And Bronze. What's up, Niobe Comics? How's it going? Yeah, it was a very nice move by Preston Richard. I totally agree. Oh my gosh, we got Damien, Sleepy Reader 666.
Damien, how's it going?
That is awesome, man. That is awesome. And CJ. No, this is actually pre-recorded. I pre-recorded this message, and I pre-recorded one other highlight of your chat later in the show. So that's how we get around that. Hey, Biggie Shack is here. That's awesome. And we got Brandon popping in too. So, hey, so we got a variety of topics to talk about tonight, and this show might not be as long as the last show. I think we're going to kind of move through these a little bit more of a. No,
we can talk. We can talk.
We can talk. We know that.
Depending on how much the chat gets involved,
are our beards AI?
Much discussion. Yes, I'm actually a baby-faced, round-faced little guy.
I'm actually a 14-year-old kid from Iowa. No,
voice changer and everything.
Yeah, people are like, how does your mic sound so good? I get that comment a lot, and it's the power of AI. Oh my God, I made that joke, and now people are going to think I'm being serious.
It's totally, he has this really high-pitched, squeaky voice in person.
Yes, the sleepy one for sure. Hey, Kamikaze in the chat too. What's up, man? How's it going up in the land of Canada? Speaking of Canada, that's actually our first topic, is going to relate very closely to you Canadians up there watching. AI and bags are CJ's weaknesses. So the big thing, this is just going to one of those fun times where we're going to just probably nerd out for a little while, and hopefully all you in chat are comfortable doing that as well. The first thing I think we should talk about, because like everybody is talking about it, is the new Wolverine and Deadpool trailer. Now, I know some people are very specific about trailers and they don't want spoilers. So this is me telling you we're going to talk about it. I will tell you that we talked backstage before the show. Both of us only watched it once.
Yeah.
So don't expect us to be talking about like pixel peeping and that kind of stuff, right? Like we're just basically probably gonna give more of our general reaction.
I saw there was a was 71 Easter egg thing on, but I didn't watch it.
Man, those YouTubers always impress me because as somebody who makes YouTube, and I've always I thought about what it would take to get like content out, like be the first one to get content out when something like that happens. Man, that it would be such a feat. Why are Canadians making more maple syrup?
Yes. Wasn't there some big thing a little while ago about heist, maple syrup heist? There was a warehouse where they would keep all the maple syrup, and someone was stealing it and selling it on the black market and refilling the barrels with water.
What's this all about?
I think there's a whole documentary about it. But anyway.
Whoa, really?
Maple syrup. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to watch that. That doesn't surprise. It's expensive stuff, right? It's Canadian gold, right?
Kamikaze says it was a long time ago. Okay.
In a country far, far away.
And hi to K-pop too.
Oh, hi K-pop. And hey, guess what? We were just talking about you, Travis. So we got Comics Limited in the house.
There he is, the man, the myth, the legend.
Of course, there's a maple syrup shortage. Of course, there is. I'm from America. All I know is corn syrup, so it doesn't really matter down here. Exactly. Yeah. No, I do like the good stuff. I just rarely buy it because I don't really eat that much like pancakes or whatever.
Yeah, like the only place I ever saw like real maple most of the time was like at Costco. And it was always still really expensive.
Yeah, there's like a little brown jug I remember floating around every once in a while as a kid of like the real stuff, but that's about it. It probably wasn't even real. Cool. Yes, we had to sit down to everybody in chat, but yeah, we're going to talk about that Wolverine and Deadpool trailer a little bit, and I've given everybody enough chance now to tune out if they don't want to hear us talk about Wolverine and Deadpool. But first of all, as somebody who started watching the trailer with a 5-year-old around, which was dumb.
Did you put it on mute?
Well, she's been watching all the X-Men Fox stuff. Like,
oh no.
Well, she loves the cartoon. We're watching 97 together. She loves the original cartoon. Well, don't worry. We won't talk about it forever. We're not going
to get super in depth either. We're just going to kind of talk about we both only skimmed through it one time. So.
Yeah. Yep.
But I was excited. It looked really great.
Yeah. But they brought the Red Band style trailer. The language is definitely in focus. There's a lot of focus on the fact that it's going to be an R-rated film coming to the MCU, officially, which Echo was the first, TVMA thing, right? But this is the first R-rated film. They showed it. Definitely going to be that way, which is good. That's what a Deadpool movie should be based on what we've seen, I think. I don't know, man. What's your like main takeaway from this trailer?
I want to say, so it looks like it's a Wolverine that we may be familiar with, but it's not the same Wolverine from any of the movies that we've already seen before.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like an old man Logan take. But they say this is the Wolverine that failed his entire universe. I don't know if you saw that part.
Well, yeah, but there's also a comment about him being the hero, version of Wolverine.
Well, Deadpool says, I don't know anything about saving universes. You do.
Yeah.
And Wolverine had failed the time he had tried to save the universe, apparently.
Yeah.
So,
it is interesting.
Yeah.
I think the big question for me is like and this is not a spoiler because we don't know from the trailers. The big thing for me is that it's how is this going to tie into multiverses? I mean, anybody who's seen any of the coverage knows it involves time travel or the TVA variants, that kind of stuff. How is it going to tie into all that? Like, where's it going to take us? The Captain Marvel in credit scene, if you haven't seen that, that's got a big Fox X-Men related hook to it with Kelsey Grammer.
Spoiler, like what were we 7-8 months out? Spoiler.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where I just am curious to see where it's all going to go. I'm excited to see where it's all going to go. I'm glad we didn't see like a million cameos in this trailer, and I hope we don't in the next one or the one after that. Like, I want to save all that for when I see the movie.
I do want to save some surprises, and I'm sure that we will. I want to say hey to Chance, Nostalgic Pod Boss popping in. Cool guy.
Yeah.
Came over from the show that I was on before this.
Right on.
So, but yeah, I think we did see, okay, we're just giving you one more chance. Anybody who doesn't want to know anything, we did see Cassandra Nova doing a number on Wolverine.
Yes. Wrecking him, which, I mean, she should, basically.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, we saw some. Did you notice the giant Ant-Man helmet?
Yeah, the Giant Man. At this point, I feel like he's more Giant Man than Ant-Man with some of the stuff.
Yeah, he does kind of do that a lot more than he does the Ant-Man, doesn't he? But yeah, so the giant Ant-Man helmet or Giant Man helmet, I noticed that and then we had sling ring action going on there.
Yeah,
where they were both jumping through a portal. So I'm wondering if that's is that going to be like the end of the movie? Are they jumping through to the other universe? What's going to go on there? So
yeah, and that's kind of, I'm hoping that this is look, me personally, I'm hoping this is goodbye to the Fox X-Men stuff, with the exception of Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. And I know that's not necessarily a popular sentiment, but especially after like going through and rewatching those movies and the content from that era, it's not a lot of good stuff to hold on to. Like, there's a couple really good movies in that run. Going back and watching them, in my opinion, there's a lot of bad.
Yeah, there's a lot. It was a growth period for comics movies. I mean, definitely.
Yeah. I'm not besmirching them for what they were at the time, especially, but they don't hold up very, especially in the modern comic book movie sense.
Just rewatched the first X-Men movie not too long ago, and I was like, some of this parts of this are really hard to watch.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I think when we started getting multiverse stuff in the MCU, I hoped that we were getting more ability to play around in the different things that have happened, like the animated stuff, and I think we're seeing like hints of that where they might be doing that, but at the same time, I almost kind of just want to, like, okay, let's have our hurrah there, and then let's move on and keep going forward with this MCU that needs to kind of, in my opinion at least, I think a lot of people's opinions, needs to kind of course correct a little bit and kind of get going again and build up to like another massive, Infinity War style thing again, or Endgame style thing. And I think that would be cool. And I don't want to see Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine forever. I'm not saying he couldn't reprise his role in some way later on, but man, I don't want to see him playing Wolverine again over and over again for the next 10 years, and I just don't think it'll be fun anymore.
Right. I think we might because we do have Secret Wars coming up, which is going to be a multiverse type of thing where that might be where we're introduced to the new actor who's going to play Wolverine. But I mean the preview there had a lot. Did you see Eliot?
No.
Yes, Eliot was in there.
That's cool.
So
no, I'll definitely need to rewatch it.
They're in the TVA dump world, basically. So
I mean, it makes sense because it's already kind of happened, but I feel that's Ozzy. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm thinking that like don't get me wrong, I want to have one fun romp through this playground again. Like, I think that'd be great. And even if it's stretched out over a couple projects or something, I think that's fine too. But it's just like one of those things where it's like, I'm ready for that to be awesome and then a goodbye. I think
we're going to see like a tip of the hat to a lot of the MCU movies and the Fox movies in this, like kind of seeing significant scenes from all of those movies as we go through. So.
And shout out to Awesome Sauce Radio. Hey, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, the trailer was Awesome Sauce. It's a very appropriate one for you to call out Awesome Sauce Radio. Like, it was fun. It was really fun. I'm feeling X-Men, you know, with all the cartoon.
Really, really good.
Yeah. I guess
there's the thing at the very end with Blind Owl. I love that too. Okay. Okay, we're not allowed. Was it? He says Foggy though. So is that Foggy Nelson, Daredevil's Foggy? It's like Foggy said that's absolutely not allowed. And I was like, oh, Foggy. I'm like, hey.
Did you say Feige maybe?
Did he say Feige? Maybe I thought he said Foggy. Maybe he did say Feige because he's like he says the whole. He starts using all the different words, all the different slang terms for it, and he's like, they have the whole list.
Yeah, like that's the one thing he said we couldn't use, or something like that. I think it was said Feige, but like I said, I watched it with the volume.
Maybe it was Feige. That would make more sense because I was like Foggy. That doesn't make sense. Feige makes a lot more sense. Yeah. Do you want? He's like, do you want to build it? Do you want to build a stuff? He's like, yes, but we can't.
Nice. I think there's two things we definitely have to talk about though, but that are, I guess you could say, spoilers for a trailer. And I know some people, I say that lightheartedly, I know some people feel that way. The first is, and there's been a lot of talk about it, we got to see the sleeveless yellow costume. No mask yet, but we got to see that. There's rumors the mask is out there, which I really hope we get to see like one good sequence with the mask on, with the sleeveless.
We were going to see was the briefcase, right?
Yeah, that's it. Never seen it on, and it was a good looking mask. I don't know how it would look on, but it was a good looking one in the briefcase.
Right.
So that was cool. And I know, for people that don't know the inside story or the like fact that you seem to see like everywhere now, Hugh Jackman's really susceptible to skin cancer. There's a lot of that's shot outdoors in the desert, so they wanted the sleeves to protect his skin and have more of him covered, which I totally support. I'm sure there'll be some joke about, the sleeves getting ripped off or cut off in the battle or something like that. Or, Deadpool does it because he breaks the fourth wall or something. Right.
Right.
So, but I mean, that's just great to see that. I just hope we get the full complete look, even just for, a minute long fight scene. And I'll be very happy with that. I think Hugh Jackman, as much as I think I'm excited to see the next Wolverine, I think he deserves that moment in the costume. The yellow spandex.
I thought, yeah. So what was the second big thing? We got this shirtless.
Well, it was a little thing actually, but it seems to be all everybody could talk about, and that is the Liefeld Feet store in the background of One Shot.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are, I guess, Rob was in on the joke or made aware of it or something. I've heard he liked it, or whatever. But a lot of people seem to be like, using it to rib on Liefeld. I think it's just self-aware, right? Like
Liefeld's feet.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
That was very good. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure if we went and watched one of those 71 Easter eggs about people are probably know 1,000 things we're forgetting to mention or whatever. But again, just watched it on a surface level, and I do not like to deep dive on trailers too often. I probably will watch this one more time, but trailers give away so much these days that I try not to watch them over and over again. So
they definitely can lessen the movie experience, so for sure. But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. The whole thing, the bar scene where he's trying to drag Wolverine out of the bar, and Wolverine goes to pop his claws, and they only come out about an inch and a half, 2 inches out, and he's like,
whiskey dick.
Oh, little whiskey dick at the claws, eh?
It happens, old age. You guys in your old age, yeah. Yeah. By the way, hey, Shadow Rat, how's it going? Thanks for making the show. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I mean, along with that comment, there was another shot in there that I won't spoil if people haven't seen it or whatever. That's a very graphic claw shot.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, definitely. Unless it's herbal cigars. Yeah, there was a lot of cigar smoking back in the Fox ones. For sure. I know people are talking about that, but yeah,
I'm drinking and smoking, but I don't know if don't know if they outlawed that or not. It's an R-rated movie. They should be able to, right?
Well, and I mean, plus with Wolverine, it's one of those things that always, like, you know, it's super hard for him to get drunk. It's super hard for him to feel the effects of tobacco. I mean, now in the comics, that's basically impossible.
Or the herbal cigars. He couldn't feel the effects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the thing, is I am excited to see their chemistry. Like, it's redemption for Ryan Reynolds too. Like, as much as Hugh Jackman deserves to have kind of the action moment beyond just what was in Logan, which was a very good swan song. And that's always been part of my problem with this, by the way, is you end on such a high note. It is risky to kind of go back in. I think we're going to be okay with that, but you know, I did feel like you ended on such a high note that maybe it's a little dangerous to go back and try to do this character more justice. But getting to see Ryan Reynolds and getting to see Hugh Jackman play off of each other in the movie is going to be worth it. I mean, for sure. So.
Yeah, I think it looks great. So
okay, nostalgic.
We could leave it at that if you like.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it'll
certainly watch it.
Yeah. So I mean, Richard, I guess that's the thing, is, I mean, it really entirely depends on, for me, on how they do it. Like, if he comes back and you know, it's he's kind of playing that Old Man Logan role. Like, you know, for a while in the comics, Old Man Logan was hanging around the same time that you know, core Wolverine was hanging around, and get Laura in there too.
I'm not up on my reading.
I think
Old Man Logan's still around.
Isn't? I don't know, but I don't know why I say that. That's just my gut, because he hasn't really been featured recently that I've.
He had the Hulk kid from the future too, right?
Yeah. Because I don't remember seeing him in the Krakoan era stuff at all, but that could be my memory just playing tricks on me. So,
yeah, I don't remember seeing much about him either, so I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, no, that's a good point. You very well could, you know, like Bigby was saying earlier, you could come back for Secret Wars, and it could be, yeah, that could be fine. I really, you know, there's also rumors that we'll see the new Wolverine in this movie, and we'll see different versions of Wolverine. That's another big rumor that's been out there. Who knows? Who knows? Henry Cavill.
I heard the rumor of Superman actor.
Which actor?
The actor that plays Superman.
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill in this movie as a Wolverine variant.
Yeah, so. I mean, it's already been confirmed that Cavill has been in discussions to play an MCU character, and then people but they've theorized everything from Captain Britain to Hyperion to, you know, there's been a million different Wolverine. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, so just to kind of, for me, it makes sense if they kind of do a little bit of everything in a Secret Wars, because that's what Secret Wars is. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I think we're going to see a mashup, and I think we're going to be playing off a lot more of the whole idea of the multiverse, multiple versions of many characters.
Hopefully someone that we don't even know, like just some fun versions, like kind of like we saw in Doctor Strange 2, where we saw some versions of characters. Like, we didn't have any history with John Krasinski's Mr. Fantastic, but there he was, right? And that would be an opportunity maybe for him to come back, or as a different version, or an earlier version of that character or something. So
yeah, that would be cool. What was the other one? I had heard somebody thinking of that Pedro Pascal might be playing basically the Maker, not really the Reed Richards who's the hero that we know, but being the Reed Richards who becomes the villain.
Yeah, and there's a lot of discussion about which version of the Fantastic Four we're getting, and you know, I had a couple comments that really made sense on when we talked about it last time, when we talked about the Shia LaBeouf, Julia Garner casting, that we're saying, like, you know, it's got the Fantastic Four would have had to have been around in some capacity in the main MCU if that's the version we're getting, and that does make a lot of sense, unless we get the origin story, which with like an older Mr. Fantastic, I just don't see that happening. Like, I think they're probably going to have been around for a while.
Yeah.
So, I think that we've kind of probably talked about that as much as we should, in my opinion. As long as you're cool with that. Okay. So I do want to talk about the other X-Men thing.
There's another X-Men thing?
there's another X-Men thing, which is, and this is unfortunately going to be somewhat spoilers too, but I think we can do it. I think we can handle this, folks. We're going to talk a little bit about X-Men 97.
We're almost a week out from the last episode. I mean,
yeah. And I think that, should we talk about Remember It, or should we kind of let that one sit in case people haven't? I think everybody's seen it by now, right?
Yeah, that's 2 weeks old.
I know.
So I think we can talk about that. I would think we should be safe to talk about that. If you haven't watched it for all the hype that's been going around, and that was an amazing. That was the best episode they've done so far.
Yeah, and it was, it was weird because I'm watching it. Yeah, that's basically, Ozzy. When I say stuff like that, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm kind of getting people like to tune into the idea, like we're probably going to talk about it, so people know to tune out if they need to. A lot of that kind of conversation this week, and maybe unfortunately for some people, but hey, we got to talk about this stuff because it's a big deal. So that episode, I will admit that part of the way into it, I was feeling a little strange about that episode because I was starting to feel like, even though it's the Genosha thing, I'm getting a lot of Utopia, Krakoa kind of feelings about what's happening with this. They have a council, all the stuff that's going on there.
Yeah,
and I was having some strange thoughts about it. Like, it just seemed like, why are we doing it this way? Like, why is this happening? And I will say, once the action in that episode started to happen, I completely forgot about it. Seeing some of those characters, especially Rogue and Gambit, use their powers, Magneto, Nightcrawler, even just seeing the action kick in that episode, I was so invested right from the jump when that started happening, in Remember It, which is the episode before last. And this is your final warning if you haven't watched it, because I'll give you a few seconds, and I'm going to talk about something that happens in the episode that involves a character dying, so you really don't want to watch. And now
we should preface that with, it was so impactful that the watcher was watching.
That's true. It's something that I didn't even notice on my first watch through until Bigby pointed it out to me. Again, because I'm watching with my kiddo, so I'm usually distracted to some degree. Here's a perfect way to talk about it. I'm just glad Gambit doesn't have to watch Rogue and Magneto sucking face. There you go, Biggie. Yeah. So man, it is okay. Cool. I'm glad to know I wasn't alone on that one. Comics Limited. It was an emotional gut punch that I didn't expect.
Yeah, I had no idea. They've never strayed that far from any of the existing stories in this show. And so it was totally unexpected, right? I mean,
at least not with a main character like to that degree. There's been some minor ones they've kind of played around with a little bit more. I will say one thing I read in the time since that episode. Bo DeMeo, who is the showrunner writer who was ousted before the show premiered, which is a nice way of saying fired for circumstances that aren't entirely obvious to everybody. He went to X and talked about that sequence and the Gambit scene, and said that the first 5 episodes were supposed to be drawing you in, tugging on the nostalgia. The final 5 episodes were supposed to be kind of the post 9/11 X-Men 97 version, basically, like kind of getting us to that point in time where it's supposed to be going from like the innocent 90s to the more, gritty reality that we kind of live in today, right? Right. And if you think about it in that way, it makes perfect sense. I never made that connection until I read him say that, but that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, it's and then I mean that's kind of going to take us to this week's episode, which was in a way a little bit of a breather from what happened last week, but also right there in the aftermath, and also fairly dark in some ways. Not like in a big character death kind of way, but
so are we giving another 10-second? Yeah, we're talking about a more recent episode.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about this one. We won't go into as much detail on the newest one. I think is probably the safest way to do that. But we'll talk about it in generality.
Yeah. So I can say that. So a friend of mine who is not an X-Men fan has been watching all the way up to the Gambit episode, and then watched this newest one, and he was like, "I'm totally lost." He's like, "What just happened? Xavier is here now. Who are all these space people? What the heck is going on? I don't understand any of this."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Do I get a playbook?" I mean, he's like, "I don't understand what's going on there." So
it's deep in the lore. I mean, for in some ways, like if you watch the original cartoon, Lalandra's in there, Shi'ar in there, a lot of that stuff. But if you didn't, it's almost kind of funny in some ways that we don't get like some previously on stuff in the beginning that kind of references the original cartoon in some ways.
Right.
Because I'll be honest, you know, my wife loves X-Men, but she's not like a deep reader of the classics and stuff like that. So she was like, "What's going on?" When she kind of like walked into the room when that episode was playing a little bit. She's like, "Who is that woman in silver?"
Right.
You know,
that's the love of Xavier's life.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually not very far. I was like, it's his beloved, his betrothed, you know, kind of. And it is interesting. The thing I want to talk about here is the ending a little bit. So that's kind of my only other thought I really want to talk about with that one. Do you have anything else up until that you wanted to mention?
Well, there was basically two stories in that episode. So we've got the Stormforge story,
Life, death.
the wrap up of the life death story, which was a little brief. I mean, in the comics, she had lost her powers for like 7 years, something like that. She didn't have her powers. It was a little brief for her to not have her powers, but and also I was a little confused how she just sprouted hair, but you know, that's okay.
So, animated series Storm is actually plays into a lot of reasons that Storm is one of my least favorite characters on the X-Men, by the way, which I know is sacrilege for a lot of people, but it's because there's a lot of like weather goddess hand wavy kind of stuff that just happens with her, and little melodrama with the claustrophobia and all that kind of stuff that always kind of wore on me. There's a little bit of that there for sure, but I was glad she got her powers back because my daughter's favorite character is Storm, which is
there you go.
Great irony of this world. So I'm glad that she gets to see her get her powers back because it was a good story for her to see. So that's cool.
They asked your daughter, and you know,
she's the new writer for X-Men.
She's just above Feige.
Yep. Kevin, the robot from She-Hulk.
Right. No, I thought that the Stormforge story he's all right.
Yeah, it was okay. Like it's never been my favorite. I mean, granted, I just told you Storm is one of my least favorite characters, so of course it's probably not going to be among my favorite stories. There are Storm stories I do like. It's always been like, you know, for a while, X-Men unapologetically turned into a soap opera. And that's kind of, in some ways, like the more literal epitome of it is that story from the original run, which is a good story. But it's a dry one to me. That's, you know, revisiting it on the small screen is not like super exciting in some ways for me personally. But I did like how they made this like a B, you know, A plot, B plot episode. Because it was kind of nice.
They did it better than the last time they did that.
Yeah. the funny thing here is what Richard says. I have like a former mentor slash friend who would be like 100% in agreement with you. That, like, his point is like anytime the X-Men go to space is always the worst X-Men stuff, and I don't fully agree with that personally, but I completely understand why people might say that. I think because I like Corsair and Cyclops and all, I generally like that relationship, so I guess I'm biased, but and I like
we've had some good space stories for sure with them. I mean, the whole thing with the Brood and everything. Dark Phoenix saga takes place partially in space. I mean,
you don't have that without it.
Yeah. So do they have all of those characters in the let's say you say previously in X-Men? Did they have all of the Imperial Guard in the Dark Phoenix episodes?
Yep, they were. I don't know about all of them, but I know like Gladiator like comes and knocks out Juggernaut in one of the episodes on Earth. And I can't remember who all was part of that, but they definitely were in there.
But we did get to see Vulcan in this episode.
That was one of the more interesting things to me. And also maybe Deathbird was in the original cartoon, but that was definitely she was very true to her character from the comics in this, I would say, in this representation of her too.
I mean, Deathbird? Are you talking about Deathbird?
Yeah.
I said Vulcan.
I know. Yeah, I'm saying also Deathbird was another character.
Oh, also Deathbird. Okay, yeah.
But yeah, Vulcan was cool to see, although it wasn't a very big part.
Really. No, he didn't even say anything. Yeah. No speaking part for Vulcan.
Might be for the best. So I like, okay. Sorry, trying to catch up on Lee Storm and confused about which guy she's with. Oh, she ain't confused about which guy she's with. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that the Professor Xavier moment was cool. Like the classroom moment. That's all I'll say. Where he
I thought that was
takes over.
Yeah. Was kind of, I don't want to say things without saying things, but I mean, it was interesting that he was almost on the verge of being a sellout, and then he goes and does that and tells them what he tells them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I thought it was a nice, like, that felt like a original animated series storytelling kind of moment. In some ways.
It was really well done. And then the like Biggie was saying, the Gambit skeleton was dark AF. That was whoa.
Yeah. Because like just when they start to almost basically, you're kind of forgetting, you remember it, right? So I mean, that's kind of at least that's what it was for me. It's like, not that I really forgot, but like obviously I'm watching the current narrative and what they're showing me, and kind of realizing like, well, we're mostly away from Earth and away from Genosha with Storm's and Forge's story. Well, I guess that's the one thing I should mention, and it's a very minor detail, really, so I don't think it's a huge spoiler. Forge's use of magic was very, very, very MCU visually, looked like the bling ring, like we talked about, kind of that style of magic. I thought that was interesting.
Which I think, like, Norm Brayfogle used to draw his spells and his wizard shields that way, even before. So I mean, kind of before we ever saw Doctor Strange in the movies doing them that way. So
yeah,
it's kind of cool.
It definitely comes from the comics. It's just the specific like visual cue of the way it was animated just very strongly evoked. People who were watching it with me were like, "Is that Doctor Strange? No, wait, that's not Doctor Strange. It's Forge." Like there was that kind of moment for them. So definitely was
like those characters too. They're like, I like Forge because he has that multi-tool kind of element to him. He's a mutant who can make anything, but he's also, he also dabbles in the mystic arts. So
yes, yeah. Well, and another thing I like about Forge too is kind of just, he's a little MacGyver in that way, like you're talking about. kind of ironic because he'll use firearms, and MacGyver famously wouldn't use firearms, but he'll literally go like, he's like, I don't care what does it. It's what does the job, right?
Right.
And so that, like that, the Swiss Army tool is a good way to put it. He had his moment to shine kind of in the Krakoa stuff too. Like, I think they did a really good job, like showing the range of his abilities and stuff in that kind of arc. So it was cool. But I like Forge a lot. One of the underrated X-Men, although not everyone agrees, and that's totally fine.
He's in one of the teams in the new stuff that's coming out, right? Forges.
Yes, I think
one of the brand new books that they just came out with.
I think he's part of the Alaska team, maybe. I can't remember. But yeah, have a good night. Awesome Sauce. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, good to see you, buddy.
I wouldn't say he sucks either, but hey, everybody's got their opinion. Like, I wouldn't say Storm sucks, even though she's one of my least favorites. It's like the whole, there's no such thing as bad pizza or bad sex. Even the worst pizza is still good. That even the worst X-Men is still good in my opinion. So, yeah. Except for that stupid Stacy X character from the mid 2000s. That actually is the worst X-Men. But yeah, what I really wanted to talk about though was the final moments, and so I guess this is kind of the real spoiler if you haven't seen it. Although I think it's really telegraphed personally. Like, I think it's just kind of basic storytelling stuff. But this is your 5-second, tune out if you don't want to hear the end of the episode. Okay, so at the end of the episode, we get a little Sinister shot, right? Little Mr. Sinister tease that's going to be coming, which, look, it's super obvious. We've already had Madeline Pryor. We've talked about, we've seen the Cable and Madeline Pryor relationship. Sinister was in the original cartoon, like, a lot. Like, it's nothing surprising here. But here's what's interesting to me. After the Gambit episode, Sinister coming in, Gambit and Sinister have a unique history in the comics, and Sinister is a master cloner. I don't think Gambit's going to stay dead long, is what I'm going to say.
So a lot of people were worried that they were going to fix it with some time slide kind of thing, go back and fix it. So.
And that could happen too. You could see Cable maybe, since he was there, you could see him maybe trying to go back and change it. That's so definitely
cool, the way that whole thing played out. That was, I think Trav was talking with him. He's like, that going back to that episode, that whole sequence from the point where the watcher is watching, that whole sequence, it's like something out of like some of the best anime you've seen. Like especially when all the explosions are going off and everything, and they're cutting the sound and the visuals and everything, and people screaming, and it's just so well done. Like the Kaiju Sentinel is what I've heard it referred to as. It almost gets lost in the shuffle. I noticed it the first time watching the episode, but I watched it the second time, and just how many Sentinels it's spewing out gets kind of lost. Oh yeah, it's like
it's just the force of nature, right? So.
Yeah, it's like what's that movie that takes place in New York with the
Cloverfield?
Yeah, like Cloverfield, he's dropping off all of those little monsters off of him.
Yeah,
this guy's dropping off Sentinels.
It's very Tri-Sentinel, although it's the head is Tri-Sentinel, but it has a different feeling than the Tri-Sentinel to me too. It feels like kind of a combination of few, like Master Mold, Tri-Sentinel, a little bit of a few different things going on.
Matchup. Well, at the end of the episode, what you said, Sinister is there with Trask, right?
Yeah.
And Trask is saying, "I gave you everything you asked for." And he's like, you haven't seen in the beginning of what you're going to go through.
Oh man, no, man, I'm sorry, man. If you're not watching X-Men 97, like we said a couple times, you definitely should go watch it. Don't worry though, we're pretty much done with. I mean, I don't know if there's anything else we're going to talk about spoiler wise. Pretty much for the rest of the episode, the rest of the stream here, so you should be good to go. Definitely very Godzilla. Agree with that. I mean, there's an element of that for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also has he died for real? I don't know, man. It's the X-Men, and there's like I said, I think Sinister and cloning, and I think the reveal, they could go with the Morlock massacre. Gambit type storyline, like that could happen. You know, learning that Sinister had a backup of him. They could freaking dive into the Krakoan stuff, and you know,
that's what I was wondering too. Or they have the ability to bring back every mutant, right, in the future. So
yeah. So I mean, I don't think we haven't seen Hope, Gold Balls. I don't think we've seen any of the 5, so there's probably not going to do it that way. But
yeah, yeah, definitely just good stuff though.
No, then you're sitting there and you're making me think that we spoiled it.
Thinking it's terrible, and now it's like, oh, okay, he's already watched it.
You troll. But yeah, I think look. Speaking for myself, and I think for a lot of other people though too, probably I've been loving it. So probably going to continue to talk about it on these streams, at least somewhat, because it's one of those things where I get the feeling a little bit like the end of the Mandalorian season 2, when you see Luke Skywalker and he's actually kicking ass and doing his thing. Like, there is a real nostalgia power to this series that evokes that feeling to me, where it's making me feel like a kid again, when I watch it, and that's powerful for me.
I was the one thing I want to know. Nowadays, body count means something different. I want to know the body count from that episode. Did Madeline die? Did Magneto die? I mean.
Well, that's the thing. Is a lot of people are kind of, I think, glancing over that. There's a lot of other deaths. Banshee dies. I mean, there's a lot of other, but they're quick, blink and you miss it kind of things almost.
Right. You're like, okay,
Banshee's carrying an arrow.
Dead, or were they? I mean, some people were like disintegrated. You saw them get turned to dust in front of your eyes. But yeah. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting. I want to know who's dead.
But I mean, that's why I almost wonder if we're gonna get like a Krakoa-esque kind of thing where you find out, like, I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but secretly, as everyone came to Genosha, they scanned them and they have backups of every mutant that was on Genosha or something, right? Like, so they can bring them all back. Like, that could be a possibility.
Right. So my thing I was thinking was, you've got Leech standing right there next to Magneto, right? And Magneto's got the thing, and then the thing blasts, and then he goes, mutant signature eliminated. And I'm like, well, Leech could turn Magneto's powers off.
Yeah, that's true too. It's kind of hard to picture Magneto going out that easily, to be honest, after bringing him back. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But good stuff nonetheless. If you haven't watched it, watch it. If you've already watched it, watch it again. It's good.
Yeah. No more mutants, huh? You want that? Yeah. That'd be maybe. I think that would maybe be a good way. Oh, before we get Hope, I just read the last part of your comment. I was thinking that might be a good way to end the series or something like that. Is kind of a No More Mutants moment. And they could kind of leave it for a spinoff maybe or something. But yeah, exactly. I think things aren't quite adding up, and it's. I think a lot of people are so caught up in the emotion of it. When you start to think about it from like a comic book logic perspective, it gets a little more.
We've strayed away from the original storyline quite a bit. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much our conversation for X-Men 97. So if you were tuning out, I don't know how you'd know to tune back in, but welcome back. Maybe you just kept skipping forward.
Back in signal. We need somebody. We'll put some notes like in the video afterwards. You can come back at 53 minutes.
Yeah, editor Bronze will totally remember to do that. Guarantee it. My ADHD will not prevent me from doing that at all.
Right.
I do want to talk about just a couple other quick things. I have no intention of going deep into either of these things, but they are just news items that are out there if people don't know about them. Transformers 1 had a trailer, which is a brand new, as far as I'm aware, a brand new story in the Transformers canon, or one version of the canon, which is kind of I know we've seen Orion Pax in the early Optimus Prime stuff before in different versions, but I don't know about this one. Feels new to me anyway. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's a whole new kind of animated CG, computer animated kind of thing.
It's part of the lore, but it's taking elements from the lore. But yeah.
I think it kind of threw some people for a loop. I will tell you, as a father of a kid who's into Transformers, she loves RC and she loves Bumblebee and all these different Transformers. I think it's awesome. Like, it's going to be a very accessible, fun thing to watch. I get there's a large group of fans when it comes to stuff like this that have like this weird kind of backlash of like, well, it's not a very like adult or cool Transformers movie or something like that. And I kind of get it, but it's also probably not for you if you feel that way. Like it's to get new fans or younger fans, families involved. And if that's not you, I get it, but I think it looked fun.
I think that the thing that everybody was really upset about was the voice acting. Chris Hemsworth, not forgetting the name. Yeah, Peter Cullen.
Yeah.
A lot of people were really upset with that, but this makes sense because it's a younger Optimus Prime.
It's technically not even Optimus Prime. I mean, probably at some point. Well, I don't want to get spoilers for the trailer, but yeah, it's mostly Orion Pax. I think it's pretty safe to say, which is in a way a different character depending on which version of the lore he's not changed yet. It's kind of like a
I think it looks really good. I mean, and I like the idea that from the best friends can become the bitterest enemies. So so like that's a really cool take on it. So
yeah, and like I think there's a lot of comedy in the trailer, which I will say is actually funny to me. Like as far as family comedy goes, I've been watching a lot more of that kind of stuff the last few years. It hits, like it delivers. Keegan Michael Key does one of the voices, and he has a great delivery, and some great lines in the trailer. Hopefully not the best lines, but of course it probably is because it's a movie trailer. Even Scarlett Johansson has some, she has some good stuff in there, and that's the Bayverse live action stuff. I didn't want that to be funny, and it often was, but in a family animated, approachable kind of setting, I think that works a lot better.
Yeah. You got to have some levity to keep it going.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm not as familiar with the different comic versions, and I'm not even a huge Transformers lore guy as it is. I'm getting more back into it. I definitely am. I picked up the Commander class Ultra Magnus, and like I was nerding out over that, and I've kind of been trying to get back into Transformers. I'm reading the newer stuff from Skybound and everything. So I think it's a good time to be a Transformers fan. Like there's a lot of audiences being served within the Transformers fandom. So
okay, you said Ultra Magnus, and you just triggered something. I mean, I heard the worst Transformers joke the other day. It said,
"Oh no,
Optimus Prime and Ultra Magnus don't have the same father, but they are semi-related."
Oh man, that's actually.
Sorry, I had to put that in your brain.
No, every time I think of bad like nerd dad jokes, I always think of Comic Man Andy. I know he loves those. Yes, Richard, there is a movie that has been officially discussed as being in like pre-production, I think, or whatever. But I mean, also, if you watch the last Transformers Rise of the Beasts movie, there is obvious connection there as well. So I don't know if it's going to be a continuation of that, or if they're going to kind of just use that to play. And from what I understand, Rise of the Beasts is not connected to any other Transformers movie, but they made it in a way that it wasn't going to alienate any Transformers movie fan. So
it had a lot of fan service to a lot of the older stuff in it. So.
Yeah. And a lot of people, make criticisms like, there's too many humans and get all the humans out. Well, here you go. This one doesn't look like it has any humans in it. So kind of like some of the Netflix stuff they did recently, where it was all on Cybertron, and there you go.
Yeah, they've
okay.
always tried to like humanize the story more when the Transformers characters themselves have a lot of heart and soul to them.
Yeah.
You don't really necessarily need to have humans in the story.
But I'm with like the idea of like the human part should be kind of like GI Joe, where it should be almost like antagonists or allies as like a faction instead of like um a human being taken on as like a point of view character, like with
Right.
you know, they've done millions of times in Transformers lore. Like I don't really need that. But having like, you know, humans attacking or related to Transformers makes total sense to me personally, although it doesn't
Right.
have to be the focus. But yeah. So that was kind of it. Did you have anything else you want to talk about with the Transformers 1 trailer?
Not unless I wanted to start getting into spoilery stuff, but I thought it was pretty cool. Had some
Yeah.
really great imagery. The scene with Megatron in the jungle, and that was pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
So
yeah, there was a really cool RC shot that was like a really cool action thing that
the spin
works better
around
in
action
animation.
scene.
Yeah. Yeah, it works better in
That
animation
was
than it does
really
in real
cool
life.
looking. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it was very cool. Yeah, and the visuals are going to be amazing. I think we don't appreciate how much improvement there's been in visuals for the kinds of movies that are being made for the kinds of stuff us nerds like, but the visuals have improved immensely.
in some ways, I think in some ways too, I could easily take the flip side of that in some ways too, because like there's been a lot of films um that have done, you know, they've had bad CGI or something that kind of like distracts from it, but
There,
the
yeah,
bar has been
Flash.
raised in general. Yeah. Yeah, the Flash, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, but in general,
Yeah.
speaking generally,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, the spider into the Spider-Verse stuff, I assume is what you're talking about. That is definitely done that 100%. Like I know there's some talk that like the X-Men 97 team is pushing to have like a Spider-Verse style X-Men movie, which I think would be really fun.
have you seen the speaking of Spider-Verse, have you seen the preliminary pitch sketches for the Batman the animated movie, Batman Beyond, that was pitched by the Spider-Verse people before they did Spider-Verse? And
No, but I'm
DC
gonna
said
look that up
that looks
tonight.
like garbage. It said that looks like garbage. It was the Spider-Verse people.
But I mean,
Oh,
it may, but I mean, in fairness, it might not have worked with Batman Beyond, where it did work with, you know, the characters involved with but I mean, it probably would have worked too.
it looked amazing. The pitch sketch stuff
Okay.
looked amazing. So
Yeah, it's I do want like more of a like I'll call it like a cola war kind of a concept. I want DC and Marvel to be closer together in terms of quality, to the point where they're kind of like fighting each other. Like our animation stuff's good. No, our animation stuff's good. Our live action stuff's good. No, our live action stuff good. No, our comics are good. No, our comics are good. Like it feels like it always ebbs and flows, so that, you know, for a long time DC animated stuff was king, and I think it's still probably
it's
kind
still
of
pretty good.
is.
It's still pretty
Yeah.
darn good. I mean, it doesn't. I don't know. Do you think it stacks up against Spider-Verse?
But that's the thing, is Spider-Verse is really just kind of its own thing so far. Like it's
Right.
2 movies and a short, and it's going to be a 3rd movie. But a lot of people, I feel like the love for the 2nd movie was tempered a little bit by the, you know, the fact that it's got split in 2, and people have to wait for the next
Ending,
part.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are we getting that this year? Is that this year, the 3rd movie?
I think it's 2025, I want to say.
Okay.
But there is a short, by the way. If you don't know, there's a like a Halloween-ish themed short that's out there that got released. That's pretty fun.
Is that on Disney?
It's on YouTube. I don't know if it's on Disney because it's a Sony thing, so probably not. Okay. But yeah, I think it's still king. But I will just say the last few I need to get caught up. I liked the Infinite Crisis Part 1 but the like the Ruby and Justice League stuff was really weird, and I don't know. I feel like maybe it's taken a step back, but it's still really good. Damn good. Like, and just prolific, right? Like they do adaptations. Like I want Marvel to emulate some of the storyline adaptations that DC's done. I'm totally cool with that. Like that would be great because we don't get really literal adaptations in the MCU, so that'd be a fun place to do that in animation. But yeah. So I want to move on to our next topic though. And it's gonna be fairly quick because I don't want to talk spoilers for this show at all. Because I know it came out all at once and it didn't come out that long ago. And I know hardcore people have totally watched it. A lot of people haven't. I just want to talk about the news item, which is that Fallout on Amazon Prime has been renewed for season 2, which is I think generally will be received as good news.
No brainer.
Yeah, no brainer. And what I really wanted to talk about with this is awesome. First of all, for Fallout fans of the show,
Yes.
fans of the game.
If you have not watched, please watch. Amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. I will just say that, like, to me, what the takeaway from this is, as somebody, I worked in the video game industry for a while. I love, especially the modern 2000 on like storytelling that we've seen in some games. I'm really enjoying seeing like The Last of Us and Fallout get these really a lot of love and care is going into these adaptations. Video game adaptations have been trash for so long.
Mm-hmm.
You think comic books had it bad?
Right.
Video games were dog crap for a long
time. The new ones
time.
have been true to the source material.
Yes, and they are very, very good adaptations. Hey, have a good night, Richard. Thanks for hanging out while you could. We appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, buddy.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm not here to talk about the spoilers for Fallout and all that kind of stuff, and maybe that's a double standard, but I don't think there's really any point in that. It's just I think that it's just great to see that. And I will say, as somebody who worked on Halo, I wish the Halo show had taken the same approach as Fallout and Last of Us as far as being in love with their source material so much. I actually liked season 2 of Halo if I pretend it's its own thing or like a different version of Halo. Season 1 made me angry. but yeah, and there's other games too, like BioShock. I actually think Far Cry would be a really cool like anthology series where each season was its own thing compared to one of the games maybe. Anyways, I just think it's fun. It's fun to finally be seeing this, like Horizon Zero Dawn, to be like Assassin's Creed. There's a lot of good franchises out there that deserve good adaptations. So it's good to see that.
No, very, very enjoyable series.
Yeah.
Very, very enjoyable.
And if you haven't watched it and you're at all interested in that kind of subject matter, do be advised, it's a very mature audiences show.
Right.
You know what? There's been hints of good Resident Evil over the years, but it's been just hinted at. Yeah, you're right though. There needs to be. I kind of liked the most recent Resident Evil movie that was just called Resident Evil, and I know that's an unpopular opinion, but for what it was kind of fun. Then again, I liked the first couple Mila Jovovich ones too, for when they came out. But yeah, we need new updated Resident Evil.
And I said that first like 5 minutes of Fallout though. Just the setup scene with I was just blown away.
Oh, were you?
I thought it was really well done.
Sorry, I was trying to detect if that was a pun.
I'm coming at it with the first set of eyes. I have not played the Fallout game. I'm semi-familiar with them, but I have not played them. So so I was just watching it. I was just like, wow, this is just, it drew me in, I would say.
Yeah. It was so good. So this brings us to our like serious topic of the night.
Bum,
There it
bum,
is.
bum.
CJ tuned in, tuned back in, or he's been quiet, but he spoke right up just in time for his favorite topic, which is about AI. That's
Oh, I thought it
right.
was Al. I thought we were talking about Al.
Oh, right. No, that's a common. Yeah, Al is not a prolific artist that is making bunches of covers out there that are getting people riled up. Although, man, if you wanted to be a digital artist who went by the name Al, oh my gosh, that would be funny.
That would be pretty funny.
Yeah, Al makes all our covers, and in print that would just look great.
Hey, all of our covers have been by AI. What are you talking about?
Don't wait, CJ. Is
Don't
that
start
a
with
mixed
AI.
number one?
Well, it's a topic, CJ. So they
Karen Star
put,
with AI?
they put 3 books. Was it 3 books to print and then recalled?
So I'm going to share. This article comes to us from Bleeding Cool. Look, I will just say I don't often like sharing Bleeding Cool articles because I don't always appreciate the tone of the editorial over there. That's just my own personal bias. However, this is a good article that does do a good job on this. I think actually Bleeding Cool has been pretty good about covering AI and comics in general. So I will say that much. Maybe kind of a weird disclaimer, but that's how I feel. Let me see if I can make that print a little larger for everybody. Okay, so yeah, DC Comics pulls and replaces covers accused of being generated by AI. I think that's I like the use of the word accused there because it is very interesting. So the artist, and I am so sorry, I'm not very good with pronunciations. Sometimes I don't know Doc Zhang. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I would say Doc Jones.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So here are the 3 covers that were pulled ultimately, and that is basically the through line of this is that these covers were actually pulled and rejected. Obviously Wonder Woman, Power Woman, Shazam.
Did they actually see print?
I don't know if they were ever printed. I know they've been replaced. So, boy,
Okay.
if some of these covers get out there, that will be a field day.
Yeah.
But so here's the thing. Oh, did they mention?
They have his full name up there too.
Yeah, and I'm going to highlight that again. My pronunciation is going to be terrible, and I apologize in advance. Xingjiang Zhou. I'm going to guess. I'm so sorry if I'm wrong.
It sounds almost like G.I. Joe.
Yeah. So ultimately,
they're beautiful covers, by the way.
Yeah, there's a style to it that I don't. I out of the 3, I like the Wonder Woman one the most, probably. But
I like both the Wonder Woman and the Power Girl. I think they're both really well done. But
yeah, I mean, like technically, like if I just saw these covers and were presented with them, I'd tell you, like, yeah, sure, it makes sense that that's a printed cover. Tell you what, Naman, if you can't read on my screen, I'm not saying you could pronounce this better than I can, but it's possible. So there's the name that I can't pronounce. I pasted it into the live chat. So the problem is, or the issue starts, and again, you can see some I guess I have to say alleged prelims here, leading up to the finished work, which I feel like I have to point out could be backwards generated. There are some AI programs out there, I've been told, that can let you get versions of your work leading up to the finished work. The other thing, though, is I've heard from people that have been, at this person's booth at shows and watched them draw, and they say it's pretty in line with how they draw. So, and then here's some, I think, early. These are the replacement covers. These are the replacement covers that are coming out.
Yeah. I mean, if in fact he's being falsely accused, I feel terrible for the guy.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's the real point of this story, is it has more to do with, I'll say it. I think we're kind of getting into witch hunt territory with some of the AI stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's said, I haven't used AI. This is a quote from him. He told Vinicius or Two Quad Rhinos, which is apparently is a YouTuber that I'm not familiar with. I'm sorry. I haven't used AI, but I am an artist who was hurt in this witch hunt, using that term right there. I've been in this industry for over 30 years, and my drawing has always been traditional by hand. He did, however, say, I am not against AI. I think it belongs to the field of science. It doesn't concern me, and actually the development of AI has nothing to do with me, but I am grateful that AI can provide me with accurate translations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then this is, some people are going to be like, well, I don't understand why this happened. So according to this, this article from Bleeding Cool by Rich Johnson, why have the covers changed? DC and I considered changing the cover. So he is involved in that decision, according to him, because the controversial image might affect their sales. It does not mean it proves that it is an AI work. So interestingly enough, he was involved in that discussion, at least on some level. I don't know. Maybe that was just them informing him and him going, okay. But maybe he was involved. It's hard to say from that one quote. So, and then we have our new covers, which honestly, I really like this Dan Panosian cover in the middle.
I was going to say, the Wonder Woman cover is pretty good. The other two I could do without.
That's the thing is, even though these covers, I wouldn't say they're necessarily my favorites. I may not go, if I was just buying for cover purposes, I may not go and buy these covers just because of the covers alone. The Power Girl, I tend to like Power Girl covers. So it's possible.
Right.
But they're better.
What they do with the new Power Girl cover, I don't really like it that much.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's Dave Johnson, who's an artist I really do like. Maybe he did it on short notice, or maybe they transitioned it from a different work, like a variant cover that was going to come out or something. Yeah, it's hard to go wrong with Panosian. Exactly. Cosmic One. So, and I think, Comic Journey has a good point here. This is all because of artists taking too many shortcuts through digital art. Now, I don't necessarily agree with the digital art part, but I would say this is because of some artists or alleged artists out there taking shortcuts that were in this problem in the first place. I don't think it's really fair to attack digital art about this, but that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, like it or not, the digital tools are going to be utilized going forward to add texture and color and inking and that kind of stuff over a lot of the original pencils that we're seeing, original art that we're seeing. And so it's going to get harder and harder and harder to differentiate, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's that no matter what, that is true. I was trying to show you some of the rough work here that was supplied. And again, I have to kind of say, by all accounts, he's a traditional artist. I'm just saying, it is possible to generate some of these kind of as you're generating the digital AI piece, if that was the case. I'm not saying it is.
I mean, on the first Power Girl one there, you can see a lot of his mistakes and going back on the placement of the hand, the size of the hand, the size and placement of the thigh. So
yeah, I mean that's the thing where part of the reason that this is tough, and I'm gonna stop sharing this so you guys can see us a little bit more. Part of the reason this is tough is because AI is going to get nothing but better. And so, I've seen some images recently. There's a group I'm part of that has nothing to do with comic books. It just has to do with digital art or AI art. And it's posting images and it's like, is this fake? Is this AI? And I'll tell you, out of context, it is hard to tell. If you know that's what you're looking for, there's tells. I actually was I'm gonna try. There's one I really want to go find because it's such a good image. It's such a good image of man, it has me wondering every time I see it. And I'm gonna try to find it in the background here. But this is kind of the problem we're getting into, and it's just gonna get worse.
Yeah,
it's just gonna get worse.
Well, I mean, but part of it is because it's part of the tools that make up the skill set of producing this artwork in the first place. Is a lot of the same texturing tools and stuff that AI uses. The same, so it get more and more difficult going forward.
Okay, now this is not a picture of my family reunion. This is the fastest I could find this image. So this image is AI. And again, now that I say that and you're looking at it in that context, you might say, sure, there's things I can spot in here that make sense that it's AI. By the way, I can say that Brian and I both live in a part of the world where this is a site you might see.
Oh, I see these kind of people every day.
Yes.
Yes. The job sites that I go to, I see people this every day.
I went to high school with these guys, I think.
These guys are doing construction with me every day.
Yeah. And there's some funny tricks to this image, that if you know what you're looking for, but let's just say you were going by Facebook or scrolling through social media, it doesn't have to be Facebook, whatever, and you just saw this picture, would you think twice? No, you might not give it a second look. I understand that, but if you did, like, would you think about it? Like if somebody said, here's my buddies from going hunting the other weekend or something, or here's thanks to the dudes that helped me put in that fence or something like that, right? Like, you might just kind of think, all right, because I'll tell you, this is a pretty good image. And the funny thing is that
what are your tells on this? Because I mean, like, I'm looking at this thing; it looks like a real photo.
So because you and me are from the same place, the same area, I kind of thought you might know. Why doesn't any of them have anything branded on any of their clothes?
Okay, yeah, no logos on the hats.
Right.
Ooh, I get that. Nothing on their shirts.
Yeah, and then
I can see that.
So the funny thing is, I see people point out with this one. I see people point out, oh, well, they all have the same body type, or they all like. Yeah, that is not the issue with this image. Trust me, there are places where that's possible.
Right.
In fact, the town I live in, they all have the same torso. I don't know, man. Damien, you want to come up here on a like a Friday night, and you will see that at some of the bars around here. But yeah, it is a little weird that they all, if you look at their chests, especially their chests all have very similar, like even if I'll say moobs, like whatever, right? Like, I mean, I'm a big guy, I can say that. There will probably be a little variation there. So you are right, but I'm being a little tongue in cheek. The
red shirt guy looks like he's got a little bigger belly there.
Yeah, he's got a little bit different, but it's pretty good. I mean, the other thing is this guy's. Oh, you can't see my mouse cursor. The guy in the teal on the right, who's cut off in the image, his right hand. Some people say it disappears into the shirt fold, which you'd kind of have to zoom in. I don't think I can really get it much bigger. It won't let me enlarge it with the screen share, but it also could just be like a little bit of an
optical. Could be the way he's holding his wrist. He could have his hand like kind of cocked to the side. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think your logos thing is probably the tell. But
yeah. The other thing too is this image is a little blurry enough. I know that's probably also kind of hard to tell on the stream, but I've looked at this like on a high resolution monitor.
So what? One of the things that kind of like makes me think is like the guy with the. What is that? His keychain or whatever hanging out of his pocket, his lanyard.
Yeah,
I mean that.
That looks a little weird. It could be out of his back pocket, maybe.
No, I mean that doesn't look that weird. I mean, it makes it look more authentic to me. I mean, it's kind of.
Yeah, I guess in a way.
I mean, if nobody had anything weird going on, hanging out or anything, but he's got like some,
Yeah. The guy's tattoo, the red hat guy, his tattoo is a little nondescript too, like in a way that seems a little strange. If you look at you probably can't tell on what you guys are watching this on, but if you zoom in and look at it really closely, it looks a little like blurry to the point where we're like, well, shouldn't it have more detail than it does, or shouldn't I be able to make out even like kind of what it is? It looks kind of more like a blob of ink, basically.
You seen tattoos of older people?
It is very
back in World War II or whatever, you know.
But enough of these things add up, though, that it's like, okay. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, no, but that's rough. That's pretty.
That's where I'm going.
Pretty good.
That's where I'm going, Damien. But if this is how good AI is now, dude, think about what AI looked like 2 years ago. I think paranoia will reign if we try to know if anything is true. And there's a moment in Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card that I love, where they talk about essentially, like, they don't use the term because when it was written, it wasn't even possible yet. But like, they're basically deep fake videos of politicians being leaked online to where like people don't really know what's true anymore, and they can be manipulated by fake videos of politicians saying certain things. And that's used in some political maneuvering inside Ender's Game. In 5 years, I mean, think about what kind of a cottage industry is going to grow up around AI detection and verification and certification processes, right? Like, that's going to become a whole thing. It's already starting. So yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at with this and I think my gut is that this artist really drew these images for these DC covers and is now out having them out there, and has a black mark.
That scarlet letter A on him, right? It's a scarlet letter AI on him now, Al. Right? Yeah, scarlet letter Al. And that may not be fair.
Yeah,
I mean, and that sucks.
And I really just, the concern I have, and I'm somebody who's, look, I am concerned about people passing off AI work as real. I'm concerned about that too. But I mean, I think you kind of have to give the benefit of the doubt. And I say this with full knowledge that I put out a video about a month ago about the Spawn AI submission that won the McFarlane contest for the Spawn cover.
Did they ever change anything on that?
Nope. And by the way, shout out to Bleeding Cool, who had a really good breakdown of like going into that artist's Midjourney account and finding the prompts that were used to create those pieces, even though that artist swore up and down they weren't created by AI. Well, I mean, and that's a great article to go look for on Bleeding Cool as well. So
there you go. So you don't like using them, but they do have some good articles.
But yeah, well, right, and then that's especially when it comes to the AI. Like, I feel like they've been kind of on the cutting edge. So this is kind of the problem, CJ. Though, is like, it's really easy to prove he drew it. He should draw something similar on a live stream, dude. Like a professional working artist, like, you're gonna ask them to like constantly prove by redrawing the same thing over, like, in a. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I don't know if that's really the right answer. Like, he's drawn a lot of other art. Like, I've seen other examples of his art. He's drawn plenty of stuff at shows, at commissions and stuff.
You said he's been in the industry 30 years, right?
Yeah. So. I mean, that's before. But now the flip side of that is, and this is where it gets so nuanced, there are, and I'm aware of a couple, there are artists out there who can draw fantastic traditionally. They've proven time and time again they can do it. And they're using AI on their own artwork only, like a closed system, and generating new art.
Right.
And then you have to get into the more like, is that a problem? Like personally, I don't have a big problem with that as long as it's disclosed. I don't have a problem with AI art being used. I'm not going to support it probably, but as long as it's disclosed, I don't like have a huge problem with it. Like, it's when it's passed off as real human drawn artwork that I have a problem with it.
This is what I said in your show about homages. I said I don't have a problem with homages as long as you credit the person you're homaging.
Yeah, disclosure and transparency.
Your original work.
Yeah, and I know some people are going to say like, screw that. Like, I'm totally against it. and I get that too. And yeah, this is the other thing. Like, I mean, you're right. Like, I think you're right, Damien, but like, it's also, that's so tedious to like have to like film your entire drawing process to prove you made something. Like,
Are you gonna have to like set up a camera in your studio that's just constantly filming that you can rewind and go back to this date and show me drawing this?
I'll tell you, I'm doing something right now. There's a project I'm working on for this channel. It's been in the process for a long time. Folks, I have thousands of one comic book sitting in my living room in a bunch of boxes over here. About half the stack's finally gone. A little bit more than that. And I'll just kind of give you a little, it's going to come out probably in a week, maybe two. I've been destroying a comic book, an exclusive, for posterity, that like the print run was destroyed. Filming that, me ripping the cover off thousands of comics, dude, it takes forever. Like, it is, granted, I can't just sit there all day, like 12 hours a day to do it. Like, I would get it done if I could do that. I have to do it in chunks, like on nights where I can do that. And like editing that footage together to show, like in a time lapse to show I've done it all, is going to take forever. And I make edits and, videos as part of something I do regularly. But you're just saying like, oh, an artist should be able to, provide the time lapse footage of that. Like, it takes work, like it takes additional gear when you're trying to, a camera, a computer to edit. If they're digital, there's some, we might rip on digital artists, but there's some tools for digital artists to show their process, to screen record their processes they're making, which is kind of cool. Yeah. And I do recommend digital artists.
It makes great videos. It makes great videos for sure.
Yeah. So I don't think there's a problem with that. But I do think it sucks when people are accused falsely and then like have to provide that proof. And it's a very new problem too, right? Like, a lot of these artists are set in their ways. Bookworm says, by the way, if you guys aren't following Comic Bookworm on YouTube, go follow him. There's a lot of great YouTubers in the comments right now. Sleepy Reader, 666. Comics Limited was in here earlier. There's this Comic Journey guy. No, go follow him too. Go follow
Sleepy Reader, 666, Comic Journey.
And probably more I'm forgetting, by the way. I apologize.
Kamikaze.
Yep, there you go. Thank you. But Naman, who is the Comic Bookworm, asks, what if Jim Lee trains AI programs to learn his drawing method only, and AI finally generates Jim Lee's art? Whose art is it? And that, by the way, I will tell you, there is an artist that does this, and I can't say who, because I was told in a private conversation I don't have permission to reshare that story. I'll say it happened. I can't say who it was. I will say it's not a name that, like, it's not like a Jim Lee. Like, it's not somebody like that.
Right? Household name. Got it.
Yeah. So it's one of those ones that I like. It's a great like philosophical question, right? And Bigby, you're an artist. You have a lot of great artwork out there that you've done. What do you think about the Comic Bookworm's question there? Like, what's your thought on that?
So you're not producing the art. I mean, it's done in your style, right? I mean, but it's not being done by you. It's being done at the click of a button with a few prompts. So even if it's done that way, where it's only sampling your art and your style and the way that you draw, I gotta say it's still a kind of a cheap out as far as I'd be concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, part of what earns my my respect on art is the time put in, the time, to make that piece, and you're being able to do it with a few keystrokes and a push of a button. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, for me, it comes down to disclosure, I think, is the biggest thing. Like, if you're passing it off as your own artwork that you've hand drawn, I think that's a problem.
Right.
I also think it's kind of a problem if you're doing it by omission, like you're just like turning in your artwork and like, there's my artwork, you know, like without even saying like, here's the pages. You know, I think you have to kind of say like, this was created using my own artwork only in a closed system that didn't have access to other artists' work. And I used it to generate a X percentage or however much of this art. But there's also levels of this that like get to me. Like, what if you do that same thing, only you're doing it just to get your rough layouts for poses? Like there's a, oh my gosh, I forget the name of this every single time. There's a program, starts with a D, I think, that does that like will generate poses, basically, like, you know, the rough outlines that artists usually create for comic books before they start filling in the details.
Okay.
It's gonna bug me that I can't remember the name of that program. But what if you did it just to generate your rough work and then you went in and finished it?
So back in the day, people got credit for doing the breakdowns or for doing the roughs or for doing the, you still should be crediting the AI for doing the roughs for you, at least. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're doing the detail work, but there still should be some level of credibility to your artwork that you can say, oh, you know, this is my finished work, but the poses were roughed out by. I mean, even that, like, when I read a script, I've got to be able to translate what I'm reading into images on the page, and if the computer is doing that for me, like, you know, it's like establishing shot, cityscape, blah blah blah. We see Batman's jet coming in over the horizon. You know, a lot of what we're talking about here is the human creative process, right? What is your mind interpreting what you're reading and putting on the page? And if the computer's doing it for you beforehand, and then you're just filling in the blanks, I mean, it's a little cheap.
Yeah, it's a whole new world of questions for an industry and a hobby that already has a lot of these kind of nuanced questions. Like you know, we talked about Devil's Advocates, which is the show I'm on over on the XP earlier. It was a lot of shades of gray. Kyle kept bringing that up, my co-host over there. I think he's right in a lot of respects. Like there is a lot of gray areas where it's hard to say like hard line, this is right or wrong, for everybody. Might be for an individual. You know, you might have your own lines, like you won't cross or whatever. There's people that have like, I won't buy more than one cover of a comic book. I won't buy anything but the A cover. Like, people have all kinds of lines, right? And when it comes to this, though, the concern that it will take jobs and work away from traditional comic book artists, I think, is in that. And when I say traditional, I mean human artists, right? Like digital or traditional. And that's a really valid concern from those artists, I think. But I also
I don't think that's a question that it's going to. I think it's going to.
Yeah,
there's going to be some companies that will draw the hard line that will say they won't allow that kind of stuff, and some companies that will, you know, if it does the job, then let's use it. Why not? But I don't think that there's any question that it's not going to cost people their jobs.
I think it already has. I mean, you know, especially in just in comic books, because if you went broader, I think it definitely has.
I hate comic tropes.
Could I outsource my farts to AI so that I don't have to generate my own? Yeah, I mean, that's one. Look, we have the leg up on machines, pun intended, in one way.
I saw a quote from somebody that said, "I never thought I'd see a world where the robots were creating the music and art and writing, and we were shoveling the crap and doing all the dirty work."
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like I look at how it is now, and I look at how it was 2 years ago versus the history of comic books, and I think about what it's going to be in 2 years.
Right.
And I do think that like we have to kind of come to the understanding that it's going to be at some level involved, because it is already like I talked about the Penthouse cover for Penthouse Comics Return, that was generated by AI. Got a response from Penthouse Comics right away, by the way, credit to them, that when they received the cover and put it in solicitations, they didn't know it was AI, and they found out after the fact. And the weird irony there is, although I also kind of think it's a little bit of marketing on their part, they had an article about AI art within the magazine, and so they ran with it because they were saying like, well, it's kind of meta because we're doing an article about AI. So it's one of those things where it's already happening. People are already getting fooled. I mean, the McFarlane Spawn contest we talked about. I don't know because he hasn't commented on it. I don't know how involved Todd McFarlane was in that process, but I imagine he at least saw the finalists. Like, it's hard to imagine he didn't. And we ended up with an AI generated cover in that.
Hasbro was fooled. They published artwork in several of their TSR modules. That was AI.
That's right. Yeah, good point. Yeah. So, I do want to get caught up with chat a little bit here.
Great points being made in the chat.
Yeah, I'll go back to kind of the last time I remember checking in regularly. Would you be okay paying top dollar for a porterhouse that a robot cooked instead of a chef that has, I'm assuming that's supposed to be like 30 years of experience? And that's one of those weird things where it gets, when you start talking about outside comic books, the metaphor breaks down for me for a little bit, because there are ways I'm willing to accept that AI might help. And already has. I mean, AI, I think, is vilified in some ways outside of comic books, outside of the arts. It doesn't necessarily need to be. But I still have concerns and moral questions about it. But if it's a better steak, I wouldn't, it's the paying top dollar part. Like, would I still want to pay the same amount of money? I already have a problem with paying for that much for steak at a nice steakhouse as it is. But it's a good point. I actually understand that.
You're saying if it's a better steak, if it's better art, are you still on board?
I think I have a moral objection with replacing a artist with AI that I can't be okay with.
Right. Because the AI has the advantage that they can extrapolate, hundreds of years of artwork and come up with the most appealing thing.
The problem for me when it comes to art, though, is if it's a generative AI that's basing that artwork on other art. That's
just getting around the cooking thing.
Right. Okay. All right. I'll get caught up, but that's the line for me, because that to me is, it's not inspiration, it's theft of that artwork.
So I'm gonna get back to relative, right? What you're saying. Tropes say cooking is an art and a job, and Bookworm says cooking is an art, and CJ says exactly, cooking is another form of art, which I would agree. So
I would agree, but the difference is if a robot is cooking my food, it's not stealing another chef's.
Stealing another chef's job.
But right, that's the problem. Is if I go to a fast food restaurant and I know the orders are being taken by computers and AI, and that the food is being prepared by AI, because I'm using fast food in this example, not the porterhouse steak, because I think that's the next thing that we're starting. Like, Wendy's is going to start doing AI voice ordering right now. I think is something that's happening like right now.
Which
if I know that
they have now, or The computer will talk to you. It has all the ums and ahs and pauses and everything in there now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
No way.
I use a Pixel device. If you don't know, Pixels are heavily using AI, but it's not generative AI in the same way that we're talking about, as far as taking, you know, a million images and using prompts to distill that into a generated image. That's the difference there.
Right.
So then I have an issue with it, but automation is something that's existed in factory work, in food production for a very long time.
This is true. We've seen that in like automotive. I mean, that's not saying it's a good thing, but like, you know, automotive production and stuff where these machines are making the cars and stuff, taking away thousands of jobs from people.
Yeah. So to me, that's where, like, we've accepted it there. We've accepted it for the most part. I know not everybody has. Of course, it's the internet. Nobody is going to be on any one side of anything. But I think
Right.
most of us drive cars that are made, you know, not handmade.
Right.
We drive cars. And so I think you got to start drawing lines somewhere. And for me, like, again, I won't buy an AI art cover if I know it's AI art and I know that it was used in place of somebody else. But it is sometimes different for me if I'm thinking outside of comic books, and it's usually it's like the crossover effect. Like, it's somebody's job, it's art, it's stealing their technique, I guess, is the best way to put it, instead of just their actual job for that one thing. Like, that chef could theoretically get hired at another restaurant unless all restaurants made robotic steakhouses or whatever, right? So at some point, that might be the case. But, you know, then again, I might prefer that steak made by the chef, and I might be willing to pay more for it. It depends. Depends on how good that AI steak is. That's a big factor.
Yeah,
sorry,
okay,
I do
so
want to try to.
you lost. Where did you leave off? CJ, something about a steak. Where did we leave off? Okay.
Could I
Sleepy reader?
We'll have AI doctors advice programmed by the insurance companies, AI therapists, AI salesmen, and on and on. It's across. Yeah, and I mean, you know, this is kind of the stuff. The last time it came up in a big way, I think, was driverless cars. Talking about, you know, in a future where all cars are driverless, think about like truckers and think about transportation specialists. You know, their jobs are suddenly gone. When it comes to, just for the sake of the fact that this is a comic book stream, I am going to kind of distill it down a little bit for myself, my own opinion. When it comes to industry, I think that there needs to be a plan in place for what our future could end up looking like if we keep agreeing to go down this road. Things like, you know, universal basic income, things like, what do we focus on instead? Like, what do we have like public works that people can always get a job in, that are, you know, around building other, you know, facilities where things are made, or are they around different types of projects that only humans can do still for the time being? I think we need to answer those questions as a society. It's a very slippery slope. But that's my opinion on that. They train robot cooks.
Interesting time to be alive.
Yeah, it is very. Yeah, this is. I mean, here's the thing: it's all good conversation. They train robot cooks to cook dishes from famous chefs. I think you're talking about our example, or is that something that's actually happening? I think if you used an AI to make your prompts for your drawings, that's no different than looking at pictures of ninjas to learn how to draw ninjas. Okay. No, yeah, all good, all good. The fart talk is always welcome here. An AI can make the excuses for your farts for you. Yeah, there's a real secondhand use, but you're taking away a job from the fart explainers. It's okay in concept. The main problem is that the current AI tools were trained by and that gets back. I think we kind of already talked about that. 100%. That's that's the crux of my main issue. And that's why I wanted to bring up the thing about, I'm aware of artists that are only using their own work. And that to me gets into that weird, really interesting gray area. Again, to recap, I think disclosure and transparency is the most important thing about that. How much it stifles creativity.
Well, you maybe just talking in reference to the idea of the AI producing your layouts and your prelims,
right?
Kind of
but
thing.
I mean, and I was just thinking about the way I think about that is only if you let it, though, only if you want it to. Like, no one's saying you have to do that if you're going to go that route. So that creativity is always there if you choose to use it.
I thought it was interesting. The quote that people keep attacking is that AI gives people who aren't artists the ability to paint or something like that. And the person responded, they said, everyone can paint. A baby can paint. It's not, it's not that you can't paint. It's not that you haven't refined your skills. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. And then we kind of already hit on it because it was happening fast and furious, but well, I guess I should mention CJ's type in calligraphy comment there. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. When I was a student, they didn't teach calligraphy in school. Are you talking about cursive? They don't teach cursive.
I had calligraphy in high school. Yeah, it was an art class that you took, but you learned to do calligraphy.
But was it like an elective?
Yeah, it wasn't like you have to learn to do calligraphy. It was an elective.
Okay. Yeah, no, that was never an option. Really, well, if it was, I don't remember. Maybe it was, but I don't remember.
They don't even teach cursive anymore, right?
That's what I was going to say. I didn't know because I know that's a kind of a big talking point is that cursive isn't taught in schools anymore. But I mean, they don't teach what is it called, RP in Britain anymore, which is the original pronunciation that like Shakespeare was written in. For example, they don't teach that either. So I mean, things kind of evolve, right? But we got to the cooking talk. I do kind of want to. I mean, like, I agree with the cooking is an art. Like several of you mentioned, 100%. No argument there. It is an art form. Especially once you start to expand your culinary horizons, you learn real quick that it's an art form. Yeah. Comic Trip says, I'm theoretically okay with AI speeding up coding or recommendations in an algorithm and even image generation if trained ethically. Yeah, and I mean the AI speeding up computing processes. That is, I mean, like the famous example I give. Everyone loves the Two Towers. Well, not everyone, but most everyone loves the Two Towers from Lord of the Rings. All those soldiers. That was like the first big battle movie, maybe. That used AI for all the motions of all the characters in the back. They were. I mean, it's a different form of AI, but yeah, it was all like nobody hand coded what those soldiers were doing in some of those big battle scenes in the Two Towers, like at Helm's Deep and stuff. So yeah, AI has been around for a long time in various ways, and will continue to be around probably forever at this point, which is a dark thought.
I guess like even like what he's saying there though, like think about all the people who've done these amazing breakthroughs in science and research and everything, and they didn't have that. And so now it kind of like cheapens their accomplishments, right? Or does it heighten their accomplishments that they were able to do these things without the assistance of these other?
And that's that's kind of one of those, like, that's the philosophical part of this that's really interesting. I think it depends to some extent. In 10 years, are we going to look back and AI is doing such amazing things that we change our minds in some cases? I'm not saying I necessarily
laughing though. Can you believe we debated about this before?
Yeah. And I'm not saying I necessarily will feel that way, but I think it's an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah.
And, yeah. I think that's kind of where we're I mean, there's some like, some images that I've seen over the last few weeks that are, they're tricky. And not necessarily just how good it's fooling us, but there's some where it's almost, it has a beauty in its own way. And then the flip side of that is I start to realize the beauty is usually taken from what it's taking from. And that's where I start to go, oh, that's disgusting. You know, like that's the part that I don't like. Kind of like what Bookworm's saying here is if we give due credit, that would be one thing, but oftentimes the credit is not given. Trav, there is a lot of people that are going to go ahead and agree with you on that one. Skynet, you know, 100%.
Here we go.
Tezuka had a blackjack manga story about an AI hospital, and ultimately it couldn't figure out how to save lives better than a human. It was really, that sounds like a cool story. I will definitely check that out. Yeah, and then that's why comics is such an interesting microcosm of the AI conversation, and one I wish was talked about more. Like, I watch a lot of stuff about AI. You know, you look at really famous YouTubers like Marquez Brownlee, for example, talking about AI, and they're talking about AI with tech, and they're talking about how it interfaces with human life in some ways, but no one's really talking on a larger scale about comic books and AI. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about comic books and AI in our community, but it's not really getting out to like the greater audience of the world, right? Like, we're a niche. I don't see that happening anyway. And I think it's an interesting conversation because it affects jobs, it affects creativity, it affects some moral questions and theft of IP and things like that too, and theft of work, not just IP. So I think it's a really interesting problem.
Like Sleepy Reader's quote.
I'll get to it here pretty quick. AI should be able to trace back all the AI arts to the original creators down to percentages. That is interesting. You would think that they would, at some point in their creation, they'd be able to do that. I imagine that's how it basically is working, or at least show the images that it's drawing upon.
Yeah, give it credit to where credit's due, what it's pulling from.
Yeah. All the beautiful mistakes seen in some of the greatest artwork from history will be lost through use of AI. Yeah, but I mean, again, this is not necessarily my opinion, but in 200 years, are we going to be talking about some of the beautiful mistakes that AI made in a similar way? Like the fingers. I mean, I don't really think so, but I'm just raising the question.
Right.
They actually have a robot that cooks famous chefs' dishes. Only filthy rich can afford those. Do they really? Is that a real thing?
Interesting. That's interesting.
I didn't know we were that far with that stuff. Many of the greatest discoveries of the world have been done by accident. Those accidents would not happen if the approach was formulaic and traditionally approached in the way AI would. See, I don't necessarily agree with that just on face value. Like, so look, you want to get to the dark future part? Let's get our tinfoil hats on for a second. Here's the dark future part. Here's the part about AI that really scares me.
Black Mirror.
It's the machine learning aspect that can be combined with AI. Humans have a really hard time contemplating how quickly AI can evolve, how fast machine learning can evolve. When you combine the two, like we talked, like I've said several times tonight, and if you really stop and think about it, think about the AI art you first started seeing, 2 years ago or something like that, when people first started talking about it. And then think about the AI art you're seeing now. Like, if you go watch, like, there's a famous video of Will Smith, it's not really Will Smith, eating spaghetti that was generated with AI, and it's terrible. He even made fun of it. He made a video of himself eating spaghetti in a really funny way, because it's just like he's just like spaghetti's flying everywhere. It's ridiculous. It's worth looking up. That's going to be a GIF on the internet at some point, I bet, when me just doing that. But there's newer versions of that program out there, and you watch what it's done now, and it's like, man, if I wasn't paying attention, that's Will Smith eating spaghetti, like, for real. And again, you can look and you will notice things that are odd about it, things that don't make sense if you're really looking. But we're talking about a society where we read the headlines and we don't read the articles. Again, some people do, but as a society, that's the world we live in.
Right.
And that's where it gets scary for me, because if people aren't paying attention, if they're not knowing what to look for, I mean, think about Photoshop Photoshop edits for photos. There's still images where people are like, dude, I'm going to make a video about it probably. There's this photo that goes around every few years about people saying that there's this guy named Wayne Bruce, and he was the original Batman, like the real life Scotsman who was Batman. And it's this old timey photo, you know, like it looks like one of those plate photographs from like the 1900s.
Sepia tone.
Big bearded Batman guy with a mask on. Yeah, okay. Exactly. And it's fake. It's a Photoshop. But there are people in content that's made out there be like, did you know that Batman was inspired by this guy named Wayne Bruce? There's legit articles out there where people are like, you know, talking about this and they're showing that image. So
once it's out there, right?
and that's just Photoshop. That wasn't even AI. That was like, I think it was created in like 2007, or it was before AI. I know you can be traced back at least that far. Before AI art generation, I should say. So it's one of those things where you think about how bad Photoshop fools people sometimes. And AI is just going to get scary good at it. So take that, and in 10 years, that's going to be 1,000 times better than it is now. And we won't be able to tell. 10 years after that's going to be 100,000 times better than it is now. Because that's how machine learning works.
Right.
They don't work at the same pace.
Your cottage industry of detecting AI.
Yeah,
is going to be interesting.
So that's the scary part that really worries me, is you get to the point where it can outstrip how fast we can conceive of something evolving, and that's where I get scared.
Sleepy Readers Dune quote there.
I think we may eventually have to go to the route of the culture of Dune. They finally had to get rid of thinking machines in order to survive. Yeah. By the way, if you're not a Dune reader, I know Dune's been very successful recently in film, and deservedly so, in my opinion. I've read the book several times, including even the Kevin J. Anderson, Brian Herbert ones, but which I'm not as big a fan of, but that's a different story. The whole story of the Butlerian Jihad and the AI ruling humanity, and that's why there's no computers inside Dune. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating story. Dune, I want to train man tech from infancy to serve my house of Namen. Yeah, you want to be a Mintat? Baron Namen Harkonnen. The internet says Wayne Bruce is real. It must be true. Yeah, that's a good point. But also the internet says it's not real. So does that mean it's not real? And that's also true? I don't know, man. All I know is right now I want to talk about some art that was made by real humans.
I was going to say, so speaking of our love for real human art versus AI. So one of the things we want to do, we want to encourage our art community, right?
Yeah.
And so we put out a call last show, and we'll put out a call again this show. If you guys want to send me art of any kind that you've done, I will pass it along to Bronze Age Nerds. So Bigby McFly on Instagram, just send me a pic, and we'll pass it along. We'll put together a highlight reel. But this week we have one artist that we're gonna show some artwork from.
Yeah.
And
also one thing about that, by the way, hold on, but I just want to throw this out there, because I know, like, I do dumb stuff like the booty cover of the week and stuff like that. If you guys want to send in adult themed art, make sure it's censored when you send it to us to post, because I don't want to spend time like putting bars on images or something like that. Like, I'm okay with it in theory. Like, we might decide not to share it if we don't think it's okay. But you know, if it's tasteful-ish or whatever, you know, that's fine, as long as something that like would be okay in a comic solicitation on previews or something like that, right? Where they censor it out. Try to use that level of censoring. That was one thing I was thinking about, is we might get something like that eventually.
Yeah, could happen.
But yeah, no worries about that this week. All good, clean, fun. So I'm going to start sharing this little slideshow here of the art we're going to feature from Travis, who's been in the chat, Comics Limited. Hope he's still here. He was probably curious if this was going to come up tonight, and sure enough, it is. Again, go follow Comics Limited. I gave away, didn't give away. I mean, I auctioned off a piece of art he did with some comics he donated for Heroes for Heroes. As well as some others, of course, too. But so he's been doing art for a good cause for a while. Here's a Spawn piece he did. So I know he probably sent you all these. Bigby, do you have any extra detail or stories on any of these?
The Spawn piece here is for somebody who was on a claim sale that he did, and they said, "Hey, would you mind drawing in a sketch?" And so he's working on a sketch for them.
Cool. All right, so that's a work in progress then.
Yep.
Cool. And then we'll go to the next one here. There we go.
This one, that is from he was on Between the Lines on Geek Out with Roscoe's channel, and the theme that they had was recreate the famous Bass Lap, and with two characters we were choosing, and so those are his characters he chose, Punisher and Captain America.
It's a good combination for the Marvel side of things.
Yeah. So Cheddar Comics is the one who asked him to do the sketch. Yep.
Nice.
And Trav, feel free to chime in if I'm getting anything wrong.
Yeah, man. You're just going to be on a delay, so I figure Bigby has more of the inside scoop than I do. But I saw all the images. I just didn't get the detail. That's probably my favorite of this bunch. That's awesome. Yeah.
So this is relevant to your show you had earlier about homage covers.
So it's the last one too.
So it was the last one. Was it homage? The last one? Oh yeah, that's the panel. Yeah. So this one's actually done on a cover. So he did Travis after Dave Stevens on there. It's a Rocketeer pose. But he did Iron Man for Mr. Akins over at What's on the Comic Rack. So he did a cover for him and sent it off to him.
Nice work, man. I feel like there's another Iron Man work in progress that Comics Limited shared with me at one point that I really like. So I feel like Iron Man's always a hit whenever I see you do it. So good work on that one.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really like that one a lot.
Yeah. I probably should have saved that one for last, but this was also a good one.
So that one is also a cover for our friend Brandon over at Mon Comics. He's a big Man-Thing fan. And so you've got the Man-Thing and the woman in red there.
Nice. I think I have one more here. Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
And a Spider-Man cover for, I don't remember who it's for, but another YouTuber that asked Trav to do a cover for them. And so he just finished that one up not too long ago and sent that out.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's really cool.
There's an effect I get when I look at this one that's kind of can't remember the name of that effect, but it's kind of like the artist Manet. That's not pointillism. I'm trying to remember what it's called, but there's almost like if you squint your eyes, like the colors look very vibrant, kind of a thing that happens. I don't know how to describe. I'm not good at describing art, but I like it.
Yeah. Are you talking about what is the type of words I'm thinking of? Impressionism? Yeah.
Is it just impressionism? Okay, cool. I thought it was more of a less known art term than that, I guess. But I actually had a chance to see an exhibit of some Manet work, and that was fun. I really like that. But yeah, there's just kind of a similar effect that I get when I look at this one.
I like the negative space of the webs where they kind of disappear and then reappear in areas there. So yeah, it's
for sure.
Good job, Trav.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And really just want to say thanks for sharing some artwork. We hope to, he could have more pieces for us to show next week, and we could have 10 other pieces from other artists to show next week. I think the exhibit I saw had both. I think Monet is the one that's probably more famous for that, if I'm not mistaken. I'm probably mixing them up, but yeah. Again, I'm not an art person. My wife's gonna slap me when she watches the stream later because she's an art person, like a real art person. Fine art. Yeah, she's gonna Batman slap me. Speaking of that cover or that image. That was for TM Nerdy's 1,000 sub giveaway. That's cool.
Oh yeah.
So Geek Out with Roscoe, TM Nerdy, a couple channels there to go follow in addition to the other ones we mentioned, including Comics Limited. Go follow his work. You can see some of his artwork as well.
Speaking of, he's doing a lot of the art on the tablet where it records the art process, and then making shorts out of like processes on different parts of pictures. He's doing a crypto for redoing the Action Comics 1 cover with crypto picking up the truck. So
wasn't Starry Night Van Gogh? I thought Starry Night was Van Gogh.
I could look it up.
I thought there's a lot of like pastoral river scenes and stuff that I think of.
Starry Night is Van Gogh, yeah.
Have a good night, Damien. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. We're actually going to wrap up here pretty soon, I think. So
thank you for being here for sure.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds right to me. Again, as somebody who doesn't know Jack about Jack. Yeah, I know that image, but I couldn't tell you who did it.
Home Alone.
Oh, the homage. Yeah, so actually, honestly, when I say we're gonna wrap up, that's literally kind of how I was picturing pretty much closing out the show. Did you have any other topics you wanted to hit on before we kind of just talk about what's coming up and that kind of stuff?
I think that's I think we covered the topics really well. And sweet. Thanks to everybody in the chat that did a really great job participating in our discussion.
Hey, right now I have over 30 people watching here at 11 p.m. On the Best Coast, the Pacific Coast. By the way, that is always tongue in cheek, folks. I'll stop saying that eventually, but it's not designed to be like a literal thing.
You said the coast goes all the way around, right?
Exactly. But we have nothing but love for, I know, like, for example, Comic Journey is watching from the East Coast, unless he's traveling or something. Maybe Comic Book Worm, depends on, he travels around a little bit, so I'm not sure. And probably some others of you. So we appreciate you watching, no matter where you watch it from. Canada, far off lands, all kinds of places. So do you have anything coming up on your channel you wanted to talk about? By the way, links to Bigby's channel and profiles is in the description below. Really, speaking of following other channels and go and check them out, definitely go follow Bigby McFly, the comic book guy. You got anything coming up you want to talk about on your channel?
Well, I'm going to be on John's Comics with Kids tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to be on there. They have a series where they talk about X-Men books. So we talk about X-Men 190. Going through, doing a play-by-play or our impressions of that book and what it was like reading it the first time.
Are they going in order?
Yes.
So you guys are going to get to Life Death pretty quick on that show because that's coming right up.
Well, we're doing one. I'm doing 190. There's a list of like all the different guests they have come up, and each person gets to do one book. So
gotcha.
I'm doing 190. So yeah. But
nice.
I'll be on there tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. And then I'm going to be on Between the Lines on June 3rd, doing some artwork. So there's that. And I got some secret projects coming up with Bronze too.
Absolutely. There's going to be a lot more coming. For me, I'm not huge on plugs, but I actually do have a couple I'd like to. There was an interview I put up today. Not getting a lot. The algorithm didn't like it because I don't post a lot of recorded videos these days. It's mostly been live streams. I interviewed the creative team behind Vampirella Dark Reflections. They're also the writers that did like the Vampaverse comics. and the Valentine's special, and the Vamp, which was a one shot for Dynamite, and it's Thompson Nagowski, he's been around forever doing all kinds of great stuff with writing. He's written Vampirella before in the 90s, and Buffy and Angel, and you name a franchise he's probably worked on. He's written Bone Comics, he's written Evangeline, which is getting turned into a movie. He's written some of that, all kinds of stuff. And he has a new writing partner, Janine Atchison, who they have a cool story of how they met and started writing together. And definitely go check it out if you're interested in that kind of topic. I recommend going and check it out. No one's really watched it at this point, so you can be some of the first. And props to the people who did watch
with
it.
Your friends.
Yeah. And then I do have that big project with Destroying Comic Books that I'm working on right now. Once that's done and that video comes out, there's a lot more content I can kind of move forward on that I've been waiting to do. I've got a action figure review for Dark Wolf from Fire and Ice that I've been sitting on. It's still in the plastic. That got sent over by Sarah Frazetta. They launched that, and they have a new figure coming out. So I really want to do that. And there's a lot of stuff I've been waiting to work on. So more stuff is coming from the Bronze Age Nerd. And I also need to do a channel member giveaway. Ran out of time tonight. I don't want to do it now, but channel member giveaway coming soon. If you do want to become a channel member, there are monthly giveaways. I'm waiting for Darren Smith. If you happen to be watching this stream, get in touch with me. I need your shipping information so I can send you the previous month's prizes. And then the next winner, I'll draw that soon and get it out to you guys. Maybe it'll be a quick stream or something I do one night, but that's basically what I got going on. So if you have artwork, share it, tag Bigby, send it to him, share it on IG. He's kind of the curator of that. We'd love to see your artwork featured on here, like we saw Comics Limited artwork featured earlier. And probably the last thing I'll say is, you know what? Jen's GoFundMe still going on, so consider going and checking that out. Even though our little giveaway is over, you can still support her if you want to in her fight against cancer, which I think is a very worthy cause. And then we're probably going to start doing this. The last little housekeeping note: we're probably going to start doing super chat giveaways on this show. Probably starting on our next episode, most likely. So I'll try to get a preview up of that, and we might have some combined efforts on that maybe in the future too, or we're giving away some cool stuff.
Some things.
Yeah. So, and I've got some stuff too. I haven't been selling stuff for a long time, so I'm sitting on some pretty fun stuff we can do as channel member super chat. I mean, not channel member, super chat style giveaways. If you're into doing that, some people like it. It's kind of like a raffle basically. And if you're not down for that, hey, just keep watching these shows. Yeah, come hang out with us. We appreciate it. Hanging out late night. And we'll catch you in 2 weeks when we do our next one. So have a good night, everybody. Thanks for being here. Go follow Bigby and watch his content, please. And we'll catch you on the next stream. Have a good night, everybody.